Hello everyone, my name is Dustin Serwinski and tonight's topic of discussion is lockout and tagout systems. Lockout and tagout systems are actually a very important piece to the work environment. It's such a small piece, but it's a very important piece. In here, this is just a little example of what it is. You can see here's the lock, and these locks go on the machinery to lock out the machine, basically. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here's just another example. Do not operate equipment locked out. Fair enough, easy enough to understand. Before we start, I'm just going to give you a few facts. It is estimated around 14,000 men and women were killed in the United States on the job in 1970, as you can see from some research that I have done. Now that number has reached accurately only 4,340 men and women in 2009. So as you can see, there is a great jump between 1970 and 2009, and this is because of the OSHA regulation that was enforced. Since then, the U.S. employment rate has also increased, nearly doubling, which includes over 130 million workers at more than 7.2 million different work sites. So that's quite a bit of people to make sure that are safe and are ready for the workday every day. And the amount of reports of serious workplace illnesses and injuries has decreased from 11 people per 100 workers in 1972 to 3.6 people per 100 workers in 2009. So again, you can see how there is such a big decrease by having these standards and regulations enforced by OSHA. As we scroll down here, you can see that there are requirements that have been established by OSHA, but stated here are the ones that are considered the most important. And this goes along with the training and implementation and communication of the lockout and tagout system. Develop, implement, and enforce an energy control program. Use lockout devices for equipment that can be locked out. Tagout devices may be used in lieu of lockout devices only if the tagout program provides employee protection equivalent to that provided throughout a lockout program. Ensure that the new or overhauled equipment is capable of being locked out. Develop, implement, and enforce an effective tagout program if machines or equipment are not capable of being locked out. So what that means, if a machine cannot be locked out, that has to be provided in the plans and training when starting the job, or if that machine is new to the factory or wherever the work site may be. Develop, document, implement, and enforce energy control procedures. This is part of OSHA standards, specifically 29 CFR 1910.147. That's where that is located in the OSHA regulations. Use only lockout tagout devices authorized for the particular equipment or machinery, and ensure that they are durable, standardized, and sustainable. Ensure that lockout tagout devices identify the individual users. Inspect energy control procedures at least annually, so once a year the energy control procedures should be managed, reviewed, and organized properly. Provide effective training as mandated for all employees covered by the standard. Comply with the additional energy control provisions and OSHA standards when machines or equipment must be tested or repositioned, when outside contractors work on the site, in group lockout situations, and during shift or personnel changes. So those are the most important, I would say, as being stated in the OSHA standard and regulations. As we go over here, I will pull up a video that will further explain how lockout and tagout systems can save lives. Enjoy.
Tagout Standard, published by OSHA in 1989, was designed to prevent injuries and death caused by accidental startup of equipment during maintenance or servicing. OSHA estimates the Lockout Tagout Standard saves 122 lives and prevents 28,000 lost workday injuries each year. Therefore, it's likely that well over 800 lives have been saved since the standard went into effect. That's more than 800 people who still come home to their families, friends, and loved ones. People who are still there for the ones who depend upon them. The Lockout Tagout Standard works. It saves lives. Yet unfortunate tragedies do still occur, but many of them could be prevented if the Lockout Standard is applied correctly. Today's safety topic provides a review of the Lockout Tagout Standard. Remember, the standard can only work if it's used correctly every time. The Lockout Tagout Standard requires that hazardous energy sources be isolated and rendered inoperative before maintenance or servicing can begin. These energy sources include electrical, pneumatic, hydraulic, mechanical, thermal, chemical, and the force of gravity. It is important to remember that all of the energy sources must be isolated and rendered inoperative. There may be more than one. Overlooking a single energy source has proved fatal on several occasions. In order to isolate and render inoperative an energy source, an energy isolating device must be locked in place, or in certain cases, labeled with a tag warning against the startup of equipment until servicing is finished. Stored energy sources such as pressure, springs, electricity contained in capacitors must be released or otherwise rendered safe before servicing the equipment. Every person who will be working on the equipment applies a lock or a tag to each energy isolating device. For complex equipment with many energy sources, a group lockout is permitted. After locks are applied, an attempt to restart the equipment must be made to verify the equipment cannot be restarted before servicing begins. After servicing, each person who placed a lock or a tag must remove it before the equipment is started. OSHA requires 3 basic elements in a lockout tagout program. These are training, written procedures, and inspections.
So as stated before from my research, the procedures, training, and documentation of it is very important to preventing the loss of lives or serious injuries or illnesses.
It's required for 2 types of people: authorized employees and affected employees. Authorized employees are people who do the maintenance or servicing work. They are the people who actually perform the lockout tagout. Affected employees are people who may be affected by or work near the equipment which is locked or tagged out. Affected employees are not permitted to perform servicing or maintenance work which requires a lockout or tagout. Written procedures detailing the lockout tagout procedures are required for equipment having 2 or more energy sources. Written procedures communicate important information to persons performing the lockout tagout. Procedures identify energy sources, provide step-by-step instructions for locking or tagging out energy, releasing stored energy, and verifying the equipment cannot be restarted after lockout is applied. These 3 elements of the Lockout Tagout Standard work together to keep you safe. Lockout Tagout saves lives and prevents injuries if procedures are followed consistently and correctly. Remember, never take a shortcut when it comes to your safety, especially when you're working with hazardous energy sources.
So to recap, in conclusion also, that the lockout and tagout system is a very, very vital part of the work environment for not only the authorized employees, but the affected employees too, as said in the video. It's important because it can, again, save the lives of both affected parties. So having a proper machine, having a machine properly tagged out, locked out, is vital in having the correct maintenance done and having the highest amount of safety possible to the employee working on it. Thank you, and Again, thanks for watching.